For centuries, Palestine existed as a province within the Ottoman Empire. Jewish communities, a minority within the predominantly Arab population, had lived there for generations. The Ottoman system maintained a fragile peace. However, the winds of change began to blow at the turn of the 20th century. World War I proved to be a turning point, shattering the old order. In the aftermath of the war, the Ottoman Empire was dismantled. Palestine fell under the control of Great Britain. The British, having promised both Jews and Arabs independence, found themselves caught in a web of conflicting promises. The Balfour Declaration of 1917 declared British support for a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. The British Mandate for Palestine, established in 1922, was tasked with balancing the aspirations of the Jewish and Arab populations. Arab frustration with British rule and Jewish immigration boiled over in the 1936 to 1939 Arab Revolt, hardening attitudes on both sides. Zionism, a political movement advocating for a Jewish state in Palestine, emerged in the late 19th century. Theodor Herzl, an Austro-Hungarian journalist, is widely regarded as the father of modern Zionism. Herzl's vision resonated with many Jews, particularly in Eastern Europe. The movement gained momentum in the early 20th century. Despite their differences, all Zionists shared a common goal: the establishment of a Jewish state in Palestine. The Balfour Declaration of 1917 provided crucial international legitimacy to the movement's aspirations. The declaration, while expressing support for a Jewish national home, also stipulated that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine. The declaration, while a diplomatic victory for the Zionist movement, would prove to be a double-edged sword, fueling both Jewish immigration and Arab resistance. As World War II drew to a close, the question of Palestine's future loomed large. The British announced their intention to withdraw. The issue was handed over to the newly formed United Nations. In November 1947, the UN General Assembly adopted Resolution 181, known as the Partition Plan. This plan proposed dividing Palestine into two states, one Jewish and one Arab, with Jerusalem designated as an international zone. The Jewish agency accepted the plan, albeit reluctantly. The Arab world, however, vehemently rejected the plan. The rejection of the plan by the Arab leadership set the stage for a bloody conflict. In the months following the adoption of Resolution 181, violence erupted across Palestine. Jewish paramilitary groups clashed with Arab irregulars. As the situation deteriorated, a mass exodus of Palestinians began. This mass displacement, known as the Nakba, remains a deeply traumatic event in Palestinian collective memory. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion declared the establishment of the State of Israel. The United States and the Soviet Union were quick to recognize the new state. However, the birth of Israel came at a heavy price for the Palestinian people. The war that followed the UN partition plan resulted in the expulsion of over 700,000 Palestinians. These refugees were denied the right to return to their homes and lands. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War was a defining moment for both sides. For Israel, it was a struggle for survival. For the Palestinians, the war was a catastrophe, a time of displacement, dispossession, and loss. The war had far-reaching consequences for the region, leading to the creation of a Palestinian refugee problem that continues to this day. The creation of Israel and the displacement of the Palestinians had a profound impact on Palestinian national identity. The shared experience of dispossession and exile fostered a sense of collective identity among the scattered Palestinian refugees. The Nakba became a rallying cry, a symbol of their collective suffering and their determination to return to their homeland. The 1950s and 60s witnessed the rise of Palestinian nationalism as a potent force in the region. Palestinian intellectuals, writers, and activists played a crucial role in shaping this nascent national identity. Organizations such as Fatah emerged, advocating for the liberation of Palestine and the return of the refugees. The 1967 Six-Day War proved to be another turning point in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This occupation brought millions of Palestinians under Israeli military rule, further fueling Palestinian nationalism and radicalizing a new generation. In the aftermath of the 1967 war, the Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO, emerged as the leading representative of the Palestinian people. Founded in 1964, the PLO initially struggled to gain traction. However, the organization's fortunes changed dramatically after the 1967 war. The PLO, under the leadership of Yasser Arafat, became a symbol of Palestinian resistance. The organization adopted a strategy of armed struggle against Israel. The PLO gained recognition as the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people, securing observer status at the United Nations in 1974. Yasser Arafat became an international icon, addressing the UN General Assembly in 1974. The PLO's strategy of armed struggle, however, proved to be unsustainable, leading to brutal Israeli responses and further radicalizing Palestinian opinion. As the PLO grappled with the aftermath of the Lebanon War, a new movement emerged within the occupied territories, Hamas. Founded in 1987 during the First Intifada, Hamas offered a more religiously infused and uncompromising alternative to the secular PLO. Hamas rejected any negotiations with Israel, calling for its destruction. The movement's ideology resonated with many Palestinians, particularly in the Gaza Strip. Hamas quickly gained popularity by providing social services, education, and healthcare. The rise of Hamas posed a significant challenge to both Israel and the PLO. The emergence of Hamas further complicated the already intractable Israeli-Palestinian conflict, adding a new layer of complexity and violence. Following the Oslo Accords in the 90s, Hamas found itself increasingly at odds with the newly established Palestinian Authority. Viewing the Oslo Accords as a betrayal, Hamas continued to carry out attacks against Israel. In 2006, Hamas won a surprise victory in Palestinian legislative elections. Israel and the United States refused to recognize the Hamas-led government, imposing sanctions. The situation in Gaza deteriorated rapidly in 2007 when Hamas seized control of the territory. The Hamas takeover of Gaza resulted in a de facto division of the Palestinian territories. This division further complicated efforts to achieve a two-state solution. The Oslo Accords, signed in the 90s, represented a watershed moment in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The accords raised hopes for a lasting peace in the region. The Oslo process envisioned a gradual withdrawal of Israeli forces from the occupied territories. However, the Oslo Accords faced numerous challenges from the outset. The agreements were vague on key issues, such as the status of Jerusalem and the fate of Palestinian refugees. Despite the initial optimism, the Oslo peace process ultimately failed to deliver on its promise. The assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin in 1995 dealt a severe blow to the peace process. The continued expansion of Israeli settlements further eroded trust and fueled Palestinian resentment. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains one of the world's most intractable conflicts. The two-state solution appears increasingly distant. The continued expansion of Israeli settlements has fragmented the territory. The Palestinian political landscape remains deeply divided. The Palestinian Authority has been criticized for corruption and its failure to improve the lives of ordinary Palestinians. Hamas remains committed to armed resistance against Israel. The current political climate offers little hope for a breakthrough in the near future. The international community appears resigned to the status quo. Despite the numerous obstacles, the international community continues to play a role in mediating the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Quartet on the Middle East has been engaged in efforts to revive the peace process. Several Arab states, including Egypt and Jordan, have also played a role in mediating between Israel and the Palestinians. The path forward for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains unclear. The two-state solution appears increasingly elusive. A one-state solution faces its own set of challenges. In the absence of a political horizon, the cycle of violence and mistrust is likely to continue.